or does he want money?
Yeah.
If
I
he's
mean,
smart,
so
he goes for money. He goes for a
Guys,
winning team because he already made
guys,
so much. He already got overpaid.
today we'll be doing another Cancun drawing board episode. Today we'll be doing it focusing on the Philadelphia 76ers. They do have a lot of unrestricted free agents. Basically everyone except for Maxey and Embiid. But Maxey is a restricted free agent, so they have to still give him enough money to try to keep him. So I guess the biggest thing for the Sixers is who do you guys think they should focus on re-signing the most and why? And even just in general, what kind of player or what specific player should they focus on signing the most this offseason to help them potentially get farther next season in the playoffs?
I think some guys, just in terms of what they have, that they should seriously consider re-signing is first off Kelly Oubre. He was really, really good last year on a really nice contract. And he seems to really fit in with the culture, and he could play high minutes, what Nick Nurse likes, and all that. I mean, he's not as bad as Tom Thibodeau, but he plays a lot of minutes for sure. I mean, obviously Tyrese is the obvious candidate for who you have to focus on, but Buddy Hield's another guy just
Hmm.
shooting. But otherwise, maybe DeAnthony Melton. But otherwise, I think they should just look for, I mean, go for like the Paul George, DeMar DeRozan, Pascal Siakam type, if possible. But if not, I say just keep going for those really lengthy, bothersome 3D forwards. And I mean, I think that's the ultimate idea of this team, just Maxey, Embiid, really good 3D guys. And I mean, and if Paul George happens to be one of those 3D guys, that would be awesome. But I think that's what they got to target at this point. And it looks like Tobias Harris is long gone as well. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, that's why I like the fact that you mentioned that they should try to re-sign Buddy Hield because I know he's not getting very many minutes now, but I do think if Tobias leaves, depending on obviously who else they get, Buddy Hield will get some minutes ramped up again, and hopefully he can keep those minutes this time because I mean we saw he was great in Indianapolis this season.
Yeah,
Even the first few games he played for after he got traded to Philadelphia, he was
it was
great,
awesome.
and then he just kind of got cut out of the rotation. So hopefully that could be really nice for them too if he can get back in his rhythm and get a good role on that team again.
Hmm.
Yeah, just to keep this in mind, just on a really kind of crazy note, the only people that are guaranteed to return on contracts right now are Joel Embiid, Paul Reed, and some guy named Ricky Council the Fourth. No disrespect to you, Ricky. You might be the next superstar, but I have no idea
Arkansas
who you are.
legend.
Well, and Jeff Doughton too, I think, because
Jeff
he's
Down, but he is a team option, so they could also just release him. So and then Tyrese Maxey should be just about guaranteed. If somehow he's not, that would be one of the biggest
hmm
like flops in
Wonders.
NBA history.
yeah.
Just modern NBA, so that would be ridiculous. So he's pretty much guaranteed to come back, which I didn't know if you watched some of our previous episodes. But I still knew they
There's
were
some
probably going to re-sign him. I didn't know he was restricted. Um, but so that's kind of what you're looking at. So you're looking at obviously Joel and Maxi. You're literally just looking at so they have a lot of freedom, which is super awesome in general. You can kind of build around those relatively young stars. But we kind of talked about this right before the recording. This is a kind of it's an interesting free agency period as far as the free agents that we have. I would say the three most talented ones are all player options. Tyrese Max or no, are all either restricted or player options, and being Paul George and LeBron, both player options, and then Tyrese Maxey is restricted. So there's a very good chance all three of them stay on their teams.
hmm
Paul George,
could bring back James Harden.
yeah, they could bring back James Harden, but there's been rumors about Paul George maybe leaving. LeBron, there's been rumors, but he'll actually it's almost guaranteed to stay at this point. And then Pascal Siakam could explore the waters. I wouldn't be surprised, but the Pacers are in the second round. They're playing as we're speaking right now, and they've looked pretty good. Most almost any superstar that I'm aware of would love to play with a guy like Halliburton, a guy that is so selfless that he hasn't been showing up enough because he just loves to make plays so much. So that's awesome for any star in the NBA. So you're pretty much looking after that at a bunch of either guys like James Harden, who are very much on their way down, or a bunch of guys that are not very star certified at all, but could have the potential.
hmm
So that's just kind of like putting into frame. the Sixers roster in free agency, and then also the free agents are looking at. But outside of that, in my eyes, in an ideal world, what I would want to do if I'm building around Joel and Tyrese Maxey, I would want a bunch of other um like wing guard type of guys that have speed, shooting ability, and IQ, passing IQ. Not even necessarily they have to have high passing IQ, but they should be able to move the ball quickly. I would love to see my ideal offense, particularly on the offensive end. I would love to see an offense that they love to see Joel. That's fine, and we've seen it be slow and stagnant, and that's okay too with the guy of Joel's talent. But then if he does swing that ball out, that ball needs to be flying, and I need to see people running, moving across, and need to be deadly shooters. That's going to be a really hard offense to stop, and then obviously you're going to want some of those guys to be also talented wing defenders. So the question is, who with that money they're playing with and that's available could they get? Are we talking about signing and trading people? How exactly would this kind of look?
And that's why I think my three favorite re-signs for the Sixers, like you said, you want shooting, ball movement, and length if you can get it. Like Deacon said, DeAnthony Melton, he's a guard, lengthy, he can shoot the ball, but he can play make really well too. We saw Buddy Hield. Obviously, everyone knows he can shoot the ball, but we've seen he can do his fair share of playmaking as well. And Nick Batum, not the best playmaker or anything special, flashy or anything, but he can shoot the ball, and he kind of surprised me with the rebounding game in the playoffs too. So I think those could be three really important guys for them to kind of try to re-sign. Obviously depending on how much money they ask for. Um, and then even Covington could be a potentially really good re-sign as well. He was injured for most of the season, and he's a forward, but he's a lengthy, really good defensive forward, which I think could help them out a lot as well. But yeah, I feel like those are some guys that should really try to bring back for next season.
Another piece.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead.
just quick to clarify, Nick Batum may be retiring this offseason.
Hmm.
Um,
Fair.
it was reported before the season that he was going to retire, and then it was like he may not be officially decided. But that's just another note. I would have put him probably one on my list uh
Yeah, I mean
if I
he was
knew whether
amazing.
or not.
He's
He was
been
awesome in the
underrated
playoffs.
most of his career,
And I
honestly.
think another thing that they need to prioritize is rebounding because they got killed on the glass against the Knicks. And the Knicks are like one of the best rebounding teams, but still.
Yeah, that is the
Uh
Knicks.
yeah. I mean, you didn't have a lot of bigger guys. I mean, you had some like 6'7" rangy guys, but you didn't have like a 6'9" guy, in that lineup. I mean, and if you did, it was Tobias Harris, and
And I
they had a
mean,
pretty
they
brutal
obviously,
playoffs.
like you said, they didn't have him in the lineup. They didn't play him, but they did have Bamba on the bench, who maybe they should have tried using just for that rebounding purpose.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
didn't. So,
and it was really tough because and when Embiid was off the floor, they were really bad. So,
mhm.
you know, and it's hard to play two bigger guys with Embiid just because he needs his space or whatever. But I think looking into getting a bigger forward, I mean, like
I
Pascal Siakam's like the perfect stereotype, but it doesn't even have to be him. Like just
I
someone
have
in that mold.
I have an answer in a different position, something that you might love or hate. His name is Russell Westbrook. So he brings everything they need, including the rebounding, the energy, which I think is so critical. It's something that I personally, as an MB critic, sometimes he brings his own energy, but he lacks like this team leadership energy. And I think Russell Westbrook would obviously be the perfect fit for that. Defensive menace. He lacks shooting a little. He definitely lacks that shooting, but hopefully they could get some other shooters. But I think he brings everything else to really like awesome point guard you can give lots of minutes to coming off the bench. So much energy, playmaking. He could be a interesting fit on the court, even off the court next to Joel. I think it could either be a dream type of a fit, or it could be some up and downs there. But I think that would be something definitely worth.
Yeah, you would just need to convince him first to leave LA because he is on a player option as well. And based off obviously the signing he did with the Clippers, he seemed to want to stay in LA. I don't know how he feels about that now, but that is another thing they would have to consider as well, is trying to kind of convince him like, hey, you're gonna have a bigger role here, you're gonna be more important. So that'll be interesting to see though. But he could definitely be a really nice fit, like you said, for that Sixer squad.
Another
I do
interesting.
like. Sorry,
Go
one.
ahead.
I just want to speak on the Russell Westbrook I do
Just
like the idea of Westbrook. At the end of that Clippers, I don't want to say tenure because he could be back, but just that year, Ty Lue like exclusively used him off ball, and he just was brutal. And like, if you want to get the most out of Russell Westbrook, you got to let him play with the
Hmm.
ball a little bit, you know. Pause, but you got to let him facilitate some and attack the basket, which he was relegated to pretty much the Ray Allen rule on the Heat. But so I like the idea of Russell Westbrook. I don't know how reliable his shooting will be come playoff time. Um, but that's why you need to fill the roster with other shooters.
Yep.
absolutely. Another guy that is somewhat is a younger version of Russell Westbrook, but I think he's similar and he certainly worked on his shooting stroke. He shot at least over 41% three-pointers this season out of nowhere is Chris Dunn from the Utah
Yeah.
Jazz. I think he could be a really, really nice fit. Another guy that could bring energy to that squad. And again, with that kind of a three-point stroke, which he did not have before, he's not a high volume three-point shooter. I'm not trying to say that he's the guy they need to fill up their shooting, but he could definitely be a really
Yeah.
nice fit on that roster.
That whole Utah backcourt, they have some really interesting guys, and I think someone's going to pry at least one of them away. And I mean, I think they have four like pretty good guards, you know, with County George, Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, and Chris Dunn. So it'll be interesting what Utah does. I think they could help out several teams. I mean, I think if you're Philly, Colin Sexton could be another name. He's an aggressive defender. He's small, but he is high energy. He can shoot the three. He's a good scorer. He could be a good third scorer, fourth scorer. Or you could even bring him off the bench. I mean, he was great for Utah last year. Um, so yeah, I mean, really any of those Sixers guards. I mean, those Jazz guards. I would be really inclined to go get. I don't think Keontae George is available, but
I doubt they try to get rid of George, but I mean even THT could potentially be nice. He's definitely had his fair share of struggles, but he's also had his fair share of really high moments. So he would
yeah,
definitely be more of a gamble, but I feel like he would be an easier one to pry away from Utah because they don't really seem to care for him that much anymore. And we've seen, I mean, Jason Preston hasn't done much in the NBA, but we have seen that he does seem to at least know what he's doing with the ball. So I'd be curious if he would be able to get a chance somewhere at some point too.
is he still in LA?
He's in Utah. That's why I mentioned his name because
Oh,
he's on their roster.
he was good at Iowa.
Yeah.
Or no, I Ohio.
Oh,
Ohio.
was yeah, I think it was Ohio. I mean,
Yeah.
he played a few games with the Clippers and he was solid. I mean, he didn't have anything that I was like, okay, yeah, he's can't, I mean, I guess his defense might be a little lackey, but
Yeah.
everyone has their
But
weaknesses.
just a spitball right here. I'm gonna give you three more names.
See,
Torian Prince, Luke
Mm.
Kennard, and Gary Harris. To Deacon's
Gary.
rebounding point, like let's say actually they get everyone I've just talked about somehow. Russell Westbrook, Chris Dunn, Torian Prince, Luke Kennard, and Gary Harris. I don't think they will get all of them. That'd be pretty nice fit for what they have. Be an interesting fit certainly. And then they would have to, I think. I mean, Westbrook would definitely bring some rebounding, but hopefully draft um somebody else that can help with the boards. The biggest problem is it has to be someone that can stretch the floor and is relatively mobile because you already have Joel Embiid in the paint and kind of as a more immobile type of guy. You can't have two of those guys in the modern NBA.
They have a
Yeah.
pretty good pick this year. I think it's like 17 or
So,
18. Um,
Probably.
Somewhere in that range. And there's some good rangy forwards in that range. Um, I mean, Tristan da Silva out of Colorado, he's basically, I mean, he's a lot like Nick Batum in terms of he could shoot, he could attack closeouts, he could rebound. He's just pretty solid defender. Um, so that's another guy they could go after with that pick.
yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do. Um, but yeah, I mean, do you guys have anything else that you guys want to say about the Sixers?
No, but
Um,
I'm just gonna be an interesting period. I think one of the thing I want to kind of I guess throw as a caution is they have to be extremely careful with these the contracts they're going to be given out. For
Hmm.
one, long term versus short term amount of money. You don't want to be giving a guy like Gary Harris 60 million a year probably or more, and then also have um who else we just talked about? Like, you just want to be careful
Luke
because,
Kennard.
like I mentioned to kind of intro this, the free agents this year for the amount of cap space they have aren't exactly ideal. And I think they could still make some noise with the right free agents or the right free agents. But if it doesn't happen to work out, and there's a good chance it won't, you don't want to be stuck with these guys now for the next few years. Joel's been getting older and things like that. You want to be able to give yourself a chance to then again, um, next season or the season after that, go after free agents.
Yeah, and
Like
not
they,
to mention you, like you said with Joel and Maxi too, you want to make sure to keep the two stars that you have leading your franchise right now at least somewhat happy and not to where they're like, okay, why are we getting these players? What are we doing here? Like we don't seem like we're really trying very hard or whatever. And because I mean, if you have one or both of them kind of asking out or whatever too, that's gonna put them in even more shambles than they already are. I mean, not that they're in shambles, but they've only gotten so far with Joel and they've had him for a while now. So you definitely want to try to be able to get a roster that you can really push with this time.
Yeah, I mean, this was year 10 of Joel Embiid and haven't gotten past the second round. And I think this offseason in particular, Daryl Morey's job is on the line. Joel Embiid's future in Philadelphia is on the line. I don't think that Tyrese Maxey's future is in jeopardy. I mean,
Yeah.
unless he wants out. But um, I mean, there is a lot hanging on this free agency. I mean, just because they have nothing. Like this is going to be the roster. Everyone they pick up in free agency. I mean, maybe they trade for Jimmy Butler. I don't know, but that seems pretty unlikely. They, it's going to be the most interesting team in free agency, I think, just in terms of they're going to be signing the most guys, and we already know that it's really hard to just start with a new team without
Mhm.
any continuity. It happens every year, and every year we're like, oh, this team won the offseason, and like, oh, this team has no chemistry, and they start slow, they fall behind, they try to make up for it to the end, and then they're punished in the playoffs. So
yeah,
we'll see how it goes.
2 points with that I want to hit on. For one, I think it's very much worth looking into, kind of what the Suns did, but the Sixers will have a lot more wiggle room, which will be nice.
Mhm.
Is go after a few guys that you're gonna give them a decent contract, but hopefully just go for a 1 to 2 year contract, and other guys that you can pay a little bit more of a minimum role, but you need to pitch them. They need to be able to see and trust, hey, you're doing this, we're going for a ring. Like, yes, you're not gonna maybe get a whole bag. It's not gonna be a long-term contract, or we can even do a maybe a player option or something like that. But we're going in right for this season. You pretty much want to focus on right now with the free agents that they're likely going to be able to sign, considering no Paul George, anything like that. You probably want to only shoot for the next 2 years right now. But to Deacon's point, you have to still kind of go in enough because you
Mhm.
can't just not go in right now with the two stars you have with how
Mhm.
unsuccessful they've been with Embiid. So I think it's a really tough balance. I don't think they're in a great situation, but they can definitely still they're still in a decent enough situation where they can play their cards right, where we can kind of see what type of a GM Daryl Morey is. Can he make some lemonade out of these lemons? And two, I want to ask a question too. What do we think about Nick Nurse? Is he going to be able? Is he going to be the guy that will be able to kind of bring this type of a squad together, a squad that hasn't played together before? Is he the right coach? Are we sold on him?
I mean, we saw him do it with Kawhi in Toronto. Just 1 year of Kawhi, and he got it done. I mean, but that is Kawhi Leonard, and he was like the best player in the league at the time. I don't know. It's going to be really tricky. I'm not exactly a believer in this plan from the 76ers. Just, you know, you're going into the next season with a whole new team.
Mhm.
Um, I fell for it with the Suns. I fell for it with the Nets. I'm not going to fall for it with the 76ers.
And those were at least star-studded teams. This
Yeah.
Sixers team will likely not even be star-studded. We're likely running back with the exact same two stars, one of them being very young, the other one being not as young, but on the younger side and always
Very
somewhat banged
injured.
up. And then you're gonna now try to sign the right role player, semi-stars alongside of them. It's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like we haven't really touched base on him, who's debatably the third best player, also a free agent, and potentially one of the best free agents out there, is Tobias Harris. Should they try to re-sign him to be that
It
third
won't
star, or should
happen.
they just completely
They
say,
don't
hey,
even like him. The fans
find your
don't
own
like him, so he
place?
doesn't like
Yeah.
it. Like
They
he's
would
more
trade him for a
comfortable
crumble
playing
cookie.
at No Way Stadium.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be a valuable piece for someone. Just I think he's kind of like his confidence kind of shriveled up at this point. I think like Detroit, I think they're interested in him probably, probably Orlando, teams like that. And I think he could be impactful, but I think his Sixers tenure's done.
No, I
I
agree.
mean, Philly sports, it's a tough place to be an athlete. They can raise you up and then knock you right down. We saw with Ben Simmons, we saw with Tobias Harris. It's
And
a tough place.
really, he's not a bad player. He
No,
had
he's not.
a ridiculous contract. That was the issue.
Yeah,
And it's the fact that they chose him over Jimmy Butler, which also isn't
doesn't
great. But
doesn't help.
no,
Does not help at all.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's everything. Sixers have a lot of signings to do in this offseason. Curious to who they keep, who they get out of free agency, and what else maybe they can somehow fish out of there with sign-in trades or who knows what. Curious to see what happens there. Let us know what you guys think the Sixers should do. Drop a like and subscribe. See you guys next time.